All right, welcome out everyone. Day 9. We are 1 day away from finishing.
One day away from the rest of your lives. Yeah. Hey, so while people are not quite everyone's here yet, but Chris has a hard out at the top of the hour, and so we're not going to have any preliminary comments other than to say we're going to get right into it. And this is a next stage for you. You're going to see just a logical, sequential, repeatable, reliable way to take what you've got and take it to the next step. So that's why this is an important call for you all to be on and have your energy running high to be able to take this in. CIA.
CIA. Yeah, I was logged out of my Zoom account on my iPad here, so I had to like log back into my LastPass and all that stuff. So, of course we get that type of snag. How's everybody feeling about this one? After the training yesterday, I noticed that there was a few people that were like, this clarifies the training from the 5D ads. Um, I would love to know what that is for those of you, even if you want to, just post in the group. I'm curious on the feedback. I'm going to be redoing those portions of the 5-dimensional ad product soon. And so if there were gaps in the understanding, like people said yesterday, this helped fill in the gaps from 5D ad. I'd love to know what those gaps in understanding were. You don't have to do it in the chat here, but either in the group, email me. I'm open to that feedback. I want to make that clear. Um, there's I want to make sure that that just works well for all of you, who have that, because there's more formulas there as well. All right, plenty of aha moments. Yesterday really clarified everything. Yeah, see, that's interesting, Kelly. This is okay. Wow. Okay. Curtis, can you explain how to use the single quotes around the element as if I'm a 5-year-old? It sounds like you're using that same prompt in ChatGPT. Explain this to me like I'm a 5-year-old. We like to do that a lot. Um, it's real simple. The single quote is to put an emphasis on that phrase. And what the single quote does when the brain scans a phrase that has a single quote around it, it slows down to focus in on that element more intensely, more specific, singular focus, so that they don't miss it. So you're not scanning. So essentially, it slows people down from scanning and missing things. And oftentimes, with those single quotes, you can take away other words before it, which allows you to shorten things up, because now the emphasis with the single quotes allows someone to still understand it without saying like "are able to" or something like that. Um, so that's essentially it. The double quotes. See, double quotes are meant for a title or a metaphor, and you see the elements are not a metaphor. The elements are a literal interpretation. So when you're emphasizing something that's a literal interpretation rather than a metaphor, then single quotes is the correct way to emphasize a statement. That's why. Mostly relative importance, the elements where the pain, benefit, challenge, or foundation, and how and what other context elements help. Okay, cool. All right. Cool. All right. Quick, and your method is so quick in setting up ads, much easier than before. Nice. Okay. I like it, Michael. All right. So here we go. Anything else, Nick, on your side before we jump on into this?
Oh, gotta get going.
Okay. Um, I finally got access here, logged in, and I'm joining right now. And who is finished with their challenge test? Put a yes in the chat. 3593. Okay. 6 of you, 7 of you. Okay. Not bad.
Progress.
All right. Dang it. Okay. I wasn't able to disconnect the audio at first. Video. All right. Okay. Finally. Goodness. So many steps, so many clicks, so many buttons. There. Green. All right, all right, all right. Yes, yes, yes. Started, not finished. It's running. Need more impressions. Almost there. Right on. Okay. That's good. Some of you aren't going to fish until tomorrow. That's fine. You're not behind. Okay, now I'm going to X out of this chat per Nick's wise sage advice so that I don't get distracted. All right. So the first thing is this. All right. So we got two pieces today. First, we have the PBC body copy. I'm going to walk you through that now. This is the perfect complement to your PBC. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through CIA. And that's how you're going to take your messaging through a foolproof process that allows you to find the best combinations of the copy, images, all of those things. So Greg, I haven't explained what CIA is yet. I'm going to get to that, right? So it's the ramp up process to a full stage ad. All right. So we'll get there. All right. So first things first, you have now defined, let's say you finished your test, you now have a pain, benefit, and challenge. And of course, you have some, a second place winner that might look pretty close, and you might want to put that on the bench to come back to. And I'm going to show you how to do some more tertiary testing tomorrow for that. But for right now, we're going to go with, all right, we now have our PBC. So how do we write our body copy? This is how this works. Okay. Just like the pain benefit challenge is in your headline. All right. It's going across. So let's say you have your page, who you are, that's you. And you've got these are squiggly lines representing your above creative headline, right? And up until this point, you've had the see more here, right? Well, now you're going to click that see more to read the rest of the ad. And this is what we're going to focus on. And what we're going to do is, in this case, we're going to unpack a lot more in a particular structure how to take this to full to an ad that works, right? Now, the point of this body copy is to qualify and confirm what they clicked on in the first place, taking them a few steps deeper into the process, into an understanding. Okay. Now, I want you to think about it like this. We have something called the engagement continuum in the code curriculum, right? And that means you've got a starting point where there's a click with the mouse, right? You click to click see more, right? And that starts your journey. Okay. And most ads try to get you about this far along, and then they try to get you to click over to your landing page. And this is the rest of your funnel, landing page, sales page, opt-in page, whatever the case may be, right? So that's the way that traditional marketing is trying to get you to move forward, is the cheapest click with less qualification, because traditional marketing has always stated, let's get the cheapest click, because if we know our numbers all we have to do is cut our cost per click, and that therefore cuts our cost per acquisition, our cost per result. But as you all know, with the bid, the auction system with the conversion rate, EAR, estimated action rate, and then the user value, right? User value, which is the engagement rate, that equals your score, right? And because of that, doing this quick, short click, not qualified person lowers all of your scores and therefore lowers your overall auction score. And this is part of the reason why your ads do not continue to run and they burn out and stop getting impressions, because they start to lose auctions. Okay. So the difference, what we're doing here is with our body copy, okay, the process we're looking to engineer is more so where they're going to click see more instead of clicking the link, which is what this is up here. And instead of that, we're going to move this over where we're going to be here around the middle or even further, where we're going to go a little bit more into depth to help them understand what the offer is. Because remember, here is something I want you, and if there's any one thing you write down from this entire class that is a piece of wisdom that has always served me very well, it's simply this: to expose as many people, of course I have to miss a letter in there with my dyslexia, as many people to your offer. How you guys like my first grade chicken scratch handwriting? As possible. This is what people miss when they do this ridiculous gated content thing where they're trying to get people to opt into stuff before they know what the offer is. And a good example of that is a typical opt-in rate, because a lot of people do the traditional funnel, right? They try to get you to opt in, and then as soon as you opt in, they give you an offer, right? On the other side, usually like a one-click upsell or an offer, something like that. Very traditional way of doing online marketing is with this, little online, as online marketing has been around, right? Why would I need a sales page then? Well, that's the thing, right? A lot of people are trying to play what they call the long game, where they are trying to collect the lead and then they try to email them over and over again with different value to get them closer to making a buying decision. But the problem is that you lose all the people that would buy right away because you're putting a gauntlet or a gate in front of them. So let's say you have a really good opt-in rate for a lead magnet. Let's say it's 30%, pretty dang good, right? I've been able to get with Epic Ads up to 50, 60% in the past year. But we don't do it very often that way, because instead of that, if you've got 30% opt-in rate, that means 7 out of 10 people have not been exposed to your offer. Okay? So the problem with that is you're not exposing everybody you can to that offer. And so a lot of them don't even know what the offer is because you're fiddle farting around with these little lead opt-ins and barely giving any value and barely selling. This body copy of your ads is meant to do much more of that and bring somebody further along this process so that it's a shorter time once they get on the page and they convert at a higher rate, because there is not as much selling that you need to do because you were pre-selling here. Okay. And that's how we engineer very high conversion rates, which makes your estimated action rate go up. Okay. And when that estimated action rate goes up really high and you're getting more engagement through our process, higher CTR alls, higher engagement, then your score goes up and your ad wins more auctions and sustains. That's how you have a sustainable ad. That is why many people who have taken our ad training for body copy have ads that run for months and months and some years. Okay, you're not doing this whole refreshing your creative hamster wheel BS for every week, right? Which is what a lot of people do. So that's how a sustainable way, where you're not constantly putting in so much energy into creating all this extra creative that barely gets you anywhere. All right. So here's the thing. PBC, pain benefit challenge, is the main things. And of course, you've defined your other things, your internal conflict, your internal benefit, ultimate benefit. You've defined all those things. So here's what we're doing. PBC across is what we tested. PBC down, of course I do B there. This is how my brain betrays me at times. P, B, C down. So what does that mean? So the pain element that's in your body copy is going to go right here in this first section. And you're going to essentially restate and bring to life and unpack what that pain looks like, kind of like you'd want to walk them through how it happens. It takes a paragraph, maybe 2 at most. Okay. And on top of that, because you now have the internal conflict defined from your pain, basically saying, oh, that's how the pain makes them feel, you make sure to weave that into your pain section. So all you are doing is unpacking and expanding what was in your headline from your PBC. So you're very congruent. If you go off track and talk about different pains and different scenarios and other stuff, you lose people. Why is this so important? Although it sounds basic, here's why. Because when people are scrolling through their newsfeed, they are in a passive state of mind. They're not in the state of mind like they are when they're Googling, searching for something. And so if you try to go in many different directions and do uninformed bad things like ask questions in your body copy, I know, sounds blasphemous to say, right? Questions and copy, what? We do that all the time, right? I hear it on every radio ad and everywhere else, right? Yeah, I know. That's not what we're doing here. If you start asking questions, what you do is you get them to start thinking and considering those possibilities, and they stop actively reading your content. The same thing happens if you gave them one promise of a PBC frame of reference, and then you start talking about other things here, they're going to be like, so this is not what I clicked on. And you'll lose them. Okay. So it's very hard for some copywriters because they want to make sure that they cover every single detail and every single objection. That is for your funnel or your landing page. Here, we're staying very focused on what they clicked on because that's the thing that's going to keep their attention. Okay. So that's the pain part. Now, I really did mess this up in terms of where these are located, right? So let me clarify. P, right? This was the engage up here, right? This is your headline, your above creative headline. P, B, C. So what are you doing? You're confirming to them that you understand their pain and you know how it feels. Done. Okay. Next part is what's that other element? Solution. Then you say, here's my solution. So solution goes here. All right. So you've got your pain here that you're unpacking into this. Your solution is usually like, that's why I created this, or that's why we have this for you. That's why we have this webinar for you. That's why we have this download. That's why we have this product for you. That's whatever the offer is, that's where it's at. Then the most common thing that people do in their body copy is, tell you what you get with the solution and the benefits. So you're giving your solution, and then the next section with the benefits, you're going to unpack and not take 4 or 5 benefits and stack them together. Instead, you're going to unpack that one benefit that you have in your headline. Okay. That may take a paragraph or 2, sometimes 3, if it's a complex, elaborate thing that you're offering. Okay. Michael, would kind of storytelling work as well following PBC? Absolutely. Absolutely. You could tell this from the perspective of here's the pain I experienced until I found solution, which then gave me these benefits. Oh, and by the way, it has this unique mechanism, which is the next part, right? How it's different. And then say it overcomes these challenges, right? This mechanism, this unique way, is different from other solutions because this mechanism overcomes these challenges. And after that, call to action. This could literally be done in 5-6 paragraphs. Sometimes people get way out of hand and they make 12 to 15 paragraphs. What we have found is there's typically a drop off for people between 500 and 600 words. There's a dramatic drop off of how many people will actually read all of it and click the link. All right? Because your link is going to be here in your body copy at the end of it. Sometimes, if it's very easy in terms of understanding product, you might want to have a link right after you introduce your solution, but you're going to have to use your discretion on that. Sometimes it may be too soon. But what I like to do is make sure they know what the solution is, they know why they're getting it, and they know why the challenges and objections are being overcome. Because here is one difference about the challenge. The challenge up here is what they understand when you first read the headline, the PBC. Okay? But by the time you've brought them through and they've read and then you've introduced them to the solution and the unique mechanism, you may have a quick explanation of why your mechanism is different. And then someone might have at that point an objection that they were not aware of up here when you said the challenge, because you have now educated them and brought them further along in the process where they're like, okay, before I go any further, I kind of need to know this. The objections and the challenges are synonymous right here in that section. You're going to first talk about your challenge up here, restate it, and then any other objections, which you would have to know yourself based on your product and the questions you already get, you want to address one or two of those as well. And then give your call to action to say, okay, click here to get this thing, right? And that's the decision-making process that people need. Because remember, the challenge is the constraint. It's the thing that stops them from moving forward. So some people get out of hand and they will start to try to do 5 or 6 or 7 different objections and challenges, and then they lose people. And Anna, are we putting the direct link in the copy? Yes, we are. Now, where you put that is really up to you. We like to put it at the end of the copy so that we fully qualify somebody. But there is also times where you're still working this out and you're trying the best you can to get people to click over. So you may want to do less qualifying and sometimes put a second link in your body copy after you either present your solution or your mechanism, right? You might do that if it feels natural to say, now, yeah, you can get that here. If not, then leave the link until the bottom. And remember, the link in your body copy is going to be truncated. If you have a really long link, like an Amazon link or a blog post link where it's just really long, Facebook is going to truncate that link, which means it's going to shorten it to where it's going to cut off all of the letters and words, but it's still the clickable link going to that particular link. So it still works, and it will still attach any UTM parameters that you specify at the bottom of your ads manager in your ad section. Okay. It still appends, it still attaches those UTM parameters if you have the link in your body copy. You do not need to put your UTM parameters in your body copy. Just put them down at the bottom of your ads manager so that they attach to anything that has that link. Okay. All right. So, any questions? That is essentially your PBC body copy. This is how you're going to beat your competition. because you're going to explain and expose the offer in much more depth and detail to them so that they can make that decision. Whereas other marketers are trying to use curiosity and clickbait and tell you to get to the next stage because you've got to be really curious about what I have, right? And people are over it and sick of that. So this is how you move past your competition, no matter how big they are, because you're going to get better auction scores based on pre-qualifying somebody when they convert better. So my internet glitched when you were saying what E is. I just call that the engage section, right? The above creative headline. We oftentimes call it the engagement piece, right? But it's just the ACH, the above creative headline. That's all. Okay. Rich, we're going to have I'm actually going to take these screenshots and put them in for you to be able to download and look at in the course. There'll be images you can look at. I don't have a cleaned up version of this, probably due to it being low on the priorities of the other things we're creating for you. So yeah. But it'll be in here and then you'll be able to watch the video again, right? The recording. So that's essentially it. The PVC body copy. Doctor, is there anything I need to answer in there in the chat?
I think it's probably better to carry on with the CIA thing.
Okay. Now, Martina, you said, do you have any examples? I'd have to go dig, and I can't do that right now because we have, some time. But here's the issue with that. Some people say, I really want an example. Here's what I have found when I've given people examples. They tend to not learn the process, and they tend to just copy what they see, and then they don't learn it. Because there's not looking at somebody else might give you an idea, but what most people do is they'll just stop thinking, their brain will shut off and they'll go, oh, I'll just copy that. And then I'll kind of word replace, substitute words for my offer. And you don't want to do that because it just doesn't feel right. And when people do that, it doesn't work. So at the end of the day, this is all about you writing your message. Okay. Now, yeah, best practices on how to define paragraph and terms and all that. And the thing about this here, and this is a good point, is basically follow this. Every sentence is its own paragraph. You need to have a lot of white space if you're going to have this much text. Because if you have big blocks of text where it shows up on a mobile and you have like 4, 5, 6 lines, people get what they call eye fatigue very quickly because although they're reading, they can see in their vision below them a big block of text, which is actually very tiring to have to read or to even look forward to reading, and it demotivates people. So you need to have enough white space where each sentence is its own paragraph. And what that equates to is you can go over to a Google Doc, paste in your copy, Arial font, size 22. You're gonna have to type it in when you click on the size. That perfectly mimics what the preview, the mobile preview is inside of your ads manager. So this will help you understand how many lines you can do, right? And what you don't want is you never want no more than 3 lines on a mobile preview. If you're doing a big crescendo where you're explaining something and you accidentally or have 4 lines on one paragraph out of the entire ad, I'm cool with it. But to do too much of that, I would still say you would rather want to have like a 1-liner, 2 lines, a 3-line paragraph, another 1-liner, another 2 lines. You want to break that up and keep consistent white space so people feel like they can breathe through the copy. You need to let your ad breathe so the person reading it can breathe. Do not stack this together into some big article. It is tiring for somebody to read, okay? And they're not that motivated yet. The more they scroll down and read, the more invested they are. So it's very important, even from the beginning, when you're talking about the pain, that it's more white space towards the top of your ad than at the bottom. Okay. This is how people will tolerate your copy and read the rest of it because it is contextually interesting to them. But remember, they're literally looking for any reason to leave. Is this plain text or can you add emojis? You can add emojis, but I don't see them really make much of a difference most of the time. But just remember, don't replace words with emojis. For one, that's against Facebook policy. But two, that's against Facebook policy, but you make people have to think really hard when they have to translate looking at an emoji and then say, okay, so that means what word? Right? Like a heart, I heart this. That's an easy one. But at the same time, it's still causing them to think harder. You are attempting to not get them to think about anything. You want to lead them through your thought process. This whole thing is your thought process that you want to lead them through. You're not trying to ask them questions to get them to think and to create an argument and do all this traditional copy stuff. You are literally leading them through a thought process that it would be better that they did not have one single solitary thought outside of your narrative and what you wrote. So make it simple, make it clean, make it easy to read, make it understandable, and don't sit and try to do a ton of questions. If you do any questions, make it a rhetorical question that is very clear that they know the answer to. Okay? All right. Should you make bold any keyword? No. No, let me say it again. No. The bolding with Facebook is actually really hard to read, and we have not seen good click rates from that. So this is the great thing, okay, guys. This is the other piece about body copy, the hidden magic of it. Okay, you ready? Okay, the hidden magic of doing the body copy here is that you cannot or should not try to make it look like a landing page where you're doing bolded copy in different colors and all of that, because that feels like a sales message or a sales exposure. This is very, very disarming because it's literally text in regular form. It's not dressed up. It's very informal, and people don't feel threatened by it. So what I'm not actually teaching is, how I have written massive ads that do all of the selling right inside the newsfeed in a very indirect way, where maybe I'm telling a story and I'm going directly to checkout pages where I don't even need sales pages, mostly for, lower priced front end offers, or what some of you might know as, SLOs, self-liquidating offers and such. We can do all that selling right inside because people are disarmed and they're willing to read, and it's informal. It's not this, crazy traditional marketing copy that's like power words of amazing and asking crazy questions saying, imagine this, imagine that. Like, don't look or feel like an ad or a sales page. That's the point. But if you accomplish all of these things in PPC, you'll be shocked at how many people move forward because they're like, okay, this makes sense. This just makes too much sense. So that's really the magic of doing this. And you're not going to learn this anywhere else. People do not teach this. So what should landing pages be focused versus the body copy? I don't even understand the question. What should landing pages be focused? The landing pages should stay the same for right now with the way it is. It's just that you're building in an ad that pre-qualifies them to that landing page much better. Okay. And you might find that you have like a major phrase in your landing page that scored really low in one of your element tests. You might want to change that to one of the higher scoring elements, right? That helps you get better conversions because you have message congruency, which is a lot more important than what some teach as AdSense, which is like, make sure the brand feel and everything on your ad is the same as your landing page. Who cares, right? It's the message that moves people. Where can you get access to good examples of landing pages? I don't have those resources right now. I'm sorry. I know you were asking about that earlier Stephen, but it's just, it's typically, it's so common to have landing page training all over the place that it's not, hasn't never been something we've had a need for, that people have asked for. So, but we're going to do a little bit of landing page stuff tomorrow. Okay. Like just basic stuff in some of the concepts. But we don't have time for that today because I need to teach you CIA. Stephen, I assume a lot of it isn't good. Yeah. Some of it is, some of it isn't. And it depends, right? So, all right, here we go. CIA. This is my process after PBC that we do. Okay. So what does it stand for? C stands for copy. So we do our first phase of copy testing, which is taking the same elements and using different headline formulas with the same image that you used in your PBC test. So we're staying congruent, right? So copy, headline formulas. So what's not different about this is that every version of your copy is got the same elements, and all you're doing is you're testing the different headline formulas to see which headline formula best represents your elements in a headline. Okay? So that's the first phase. So how do we set that up? Obviously, you have your campaign. There's 2 ways to do this, and you get to choose based on budgets and what your setup is and your situation. The campaign, obviously. Then the ad set, let's say you got 5 headline formulas, okay? Option 1, you're going to create, you got 5 headline formulas, you're going to create 5 ad sets with 1 ad inside of it. Very similar to your PBC test where you're isolating. Now, what is different? It's just the headline formula. Same image, okay? But the difference would be in each of these ads, right? Because this ad set also represents an ad, right? H1, it's the first headline formula that you filled in your elements and tried, and it's image 1. The next one here, the only difference is H2, image, see what I did there? Image 1, right? So the only difference, H3, H4, H5. You guys get to see the flaw in my brain where sometimes I literally write things I'm not thinking. It just comes out that way. This is like yeah, it's weird. So yeah, but somehow it's helped me figure out other things. So I'm grateful for it. But the one variable is the image or the headline formula. Going to be the same image because what we're really testing is the best way. All right. So what is this doing? The best expression of your elements. One headline formula might really bring out the elements really well, like the headline formulas I showed you yesterday, okay? And another headline formula may just not really bring out or the process that the elements are in may not bring out the best idea and the best contextual understanding. That's why you test different formulas to see which one expresses those elements the best. So what are you not changing during this? You're not changing your elements. You're going to keep your same PBC elements that you have. So the only thing that changes in here is your above creative headline. That's the only thing. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. And then of course your below creative headline. I'm forsaking the image here for now. And this over here is still H1 or H2 or H3, right? So from Martine, I'm confused as I thought we only have one headline after the PBC test. What you've done is you've defined your elements from your PBC test using a standard headline formula that works well. But I've always found after I have those elements and I put them in different headline formulas that I find a better one, the best way to express that. And there are times where my original PBC headline formula has beat the other 4 or 5 I've tested, but it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. So the first thing we're really doing is, what's the point of all this? We're testing the best way to express your elements, the best combination, the best process of elements. Does the pain come first? Does the benefit come first? Does the challenge come first? Does the mechanism come first? Does the common bond come first? What comes second? The pain comes second? Does the challenge come second? This is what we're going to test. Image stays the same, body copy stays the same, because your body copy stays the same because you're still using the same exact elements. Okay? So that's option one. If you have a larger budget because you're going to be spending more per each ad set, okay? Or option two is to put all of these in one ad set so that you have 5 ads inside of one ad set. Now, can anybody tell me the drawback of doing that? You're exactly right, David. There's 2 drawbacks. One, well, no, it's not a drawback. The budget is a drawback of doing different ad sets, right? Because you're spending more. But you see, you've already tested the elements. So now we're just testing the expression of the same elements. So because of that, all we have to do, if we put all of these different headline formulas and we put basically 5 ads inside of one ad set, then Facebook's going to choose the one that it likes the best. But I have found 70 to 80% of the time, the one that the algorithm chooses to give the most impressions to is because it had the best numbers out of the gate. It had the best engagement. Okay. Facebook be Facebooking. Yes. So Facebook is going to much quicker choose a winner for you that works. And so is it the cleanest test ever? Not necessarily, but we have found for those of you who are, your budget is there, you got to be able to make some money back from this. I can't keep telling you to spend a ton of money without getting returns back. So doing it this option, option 2, where it's all one ad set and you put 5 to 8 of your ads in there, and the only difference is the headline, the engage, the above creative and below creative headlines, right? When I say the headline, I mean the above creative and the below creative headline, because they need to match. So what's going to happen is Facebook's going to choose one of these, and that's going to be your winner. It's going to get most of the impressions. And what is your metric that you're measuring? So for CIA, what do you think the metric is that I'm measuring now for doing my copy test? Think about it. I'm just testing the best expression of my elements. So I already know what's going to give me the highest CTR all. Those elements are going to give me a decent CTR all, because the elements is what makes the big difference. So what am I testing? What am I looking for as my decision maker to determine the winner? What am I testing? CPA. It's your results. So CPA, cost per acquisition or cost per result. So if I have a handful of sales, it's more about, okay, is one of these making sales and the other ones aren't? Or is there one that's making more sales? And at this point, I would be going for the best combination of lowest cost, most results. So if you're generating leads, right, the sales part doesn't really, if you're getting booked calls, the sales thing doesn't really matter, but it's about, all right, what's my cost per scheduled appointment? And which of these ads is giving me the most appointments? And that's how you're going to determine your winner. Steven, is 1,000 impressions the same qualifier for a valid CPA metric? I'm very glad you asked. That's a no. All right. So what it is your budget. So here's what you're doing. All of you have a break-even point. Okay. Your break-even point is based on your own numbers that you know, which is what's it going to cost for me to, what's my break even point in terms of my cost for generating a lead or generating a booked call or generating a purchase, right? Or an application, whatever your process is. Whatever that break even point is what we would look to run your ads to on your budget. So let's say my example, right? My 5-dimensional ad product is a $37 product. Okay. And it's a digital product, so there's no cost in fulfillment. There's just my merchant fee, which is about, 3%. So essentially my break even point is like 35, like 34 and a half bucks, right? So basically it's rounded up. 35 bucks is my break even point. So if I don't get a sale up until my break even point, I'm probably going to turn that one off. Okay. And I'm going to continue to let the other ones run if they're getting results, right? And sometimes you find out that, let's say I can't make a sale till 50 bucks and it cost me $50 to make a $37 sale, but that's okay because I have an upsell that averages out that gives me an average order value of about $54, which, by the way, I'm quoting you guys my exact numbers on my funnel. So right now with 5-dimensional ads. So, and a lot of you, this isn't going to make sense in terms of the headline formulas if you did not watch yesterday's training, because I walked you through all the headline formulas, which I will be uploading the PDF of the headline formulas to day 8 today for you. Okay. Team confused on the multiple headlines. Just think about the different headline. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to look at it. For me, my break-even point is 54. And so I'm looking to make a sale at 54, and I'm going to run those things as long as they're getting me sales at 54. I'm going to turn off any of them that don't. That's it. So if your cost per lead, is $10, and let's say you've ran your numbers and you know that every lead that you generate is worth, $20 to you in terms of revenue over a certain amount of time that you define, let's say 30 days, then you can run your ad up to $20 per ad to see if that's going to make a sale. Now, some of you who have infrastructure built in and you have a higher lifetime value and your numbers, some of you could run it to 2x your target cost per acquisition because in the long run it's going to still work out for you. But that's the number you need to determine for yourself based off the sales you have and the revenue that you make. I cannot do that for you. And Curtis, we should be doing this with the expanded body copy that you explained earlier, right? Yeah. So every one of your ads is going to have that body copy. You've got a full PBC body copy up here. And these are, every single one of your ads has this entire thing, right? The only difference in each of these headlines is your above creative headline here. You're changing the headline formula, and those I taught you yesterday, which you're going to have access to that, and you're going to be able to use those formulas. And by the way, you can modify those formulas to work. The biggest thing that's so important about your headline formulas is not the formula itself, but making sure you have elements in there. So if you can come up with and write your own formula that has the elements in it, by all means, please do, right? This is what we still mostly just write our headlines from scratch every time I have a set of elements that I've tested. I still continue. It's how my brain works, right? So I write them all the time naturally, and then I go, oh, which ones worked? And then I reverse engineer them and formularize them and then show them to you like I did yesterday, right? So this is copy, right? That's copy. So what happens once you find a winner? You might find one winner. You might find 3 that are within your acceptable CPA range, giving you the lowest cost and the most results. Whatever it is, let's say you have 2 winners. Take both of them into the next phase. So what is the I stand for? That is, of course, I'm going to do that. That is image testing. The I stands for image. Notice we're not using videos yet. Okay. So once you have, let's say headline 3 was your winner. Let's just say you had one winner. Headline 3 is giving you an acceptable cost and giving you a lot of them, right? As you've been running that test. So then you pop down to the image, and let's say you're going to do, and again, you have the option between ad sets or one big ad. And for most of you, probably just do one big ad set and let those ads fight amongst each other inside the ad set to see which one rises to the top and which one becomes the runt of the litter, right? It's just the more efficient way to do it, but you don't have to do it. You can separate them out. Either way is not wrong. It's just that if you use multiple ad sets with one ad inside, you're going to spend a lot more on these tests. So if your budget allows it, sure. If not, put it all in one ad set and let them compete. Let the cream rise to the top. Okay. So what you're going to do is, let's say headline 3 won. So for your ad, you're going to go headline 3, second ad, headline 3, so on and so forth. You get the point. It's headline 3 all the way down. Same exact headline, same exact body copy. And you're like, okay, well, what's different? Now you've selected images that much more match with what your headline or your elements say. And Anna, the good question. I'll answer that in a moment. But this time the variable is the image, and you want to let that ad set fight its way out to see which one of these images give you the best same CPA, lowest cost, most results. The only time we use CTR all as our main decision-making metric is inside the PBC process. Once you get into CIA, you're always going to be using what gives you the best result. Okay. So the difference you can see here, the variable is the image. You got the same exact headline formula, same exact copy, and you're only testing which image gives you the best. And you might have multiple winners. That's okay. This is not a winner takes all scenario. I would rather have more winners, because that means I can run more ads, and I can run, if let's say I got 3 winners, right? I got 2, 3, and 4 that win. That's giving me around an acceptable cost. Okay, cool. I'm going to continue to run those. And I may even break those out into their own ad set with their own bigger budget. And even if it's going to the same audience, when they see a different image, it's like seeing a new ad, rather than slamming them with the same image 3 times. Because once someone starts seeing an image more than 3 times, they start to hide the ad. They get annoyed with it. And you don't need to do that, right? This is just the data tells us. So it's better to even have a proven message and then continue to find images or creative that matches with that, but test different things. And if you want to know more about how to get to put images together, we have an incredible training that Dr. Nick did called the Neuro Creative Workshop. Some of you, we offered it to you when you bought the message mapping workshop. Now that goes into the science of how the brain responds to certain types of images and what parts of the brain in terms of what primary dominant motivation it is. We call it the brain agendas. As an example, one of them might be the status one, the one that triggers status, where humans really want status, right? So we have images that help us with a particular type of status. You might have a person on a stage speaking, or, God forbid, standing next to a stupid Lambo, because it works for certain people, for younger crowds who are wanting to impress everybody. But there's 7 of those brain agendas that allow you to get very scientific about how to put these images together, where you can generate them through AI or find stock photos and things like that. But it's mostly images of people, mostly, or situations, and they really work nicely. Now, if you don't have that, the Neural Creative Workshop is available. You can go right to codemethodology.com, click on Neural Creative Workshop, and it's there, right? And you can pick that up, and that's going to help you with your image generation. So here's the last thing, and this is more of a optional step, okay? The A, what do you think the A in CIA stands for? Can any of you guess? Kelly, you're cheating. You've been here before. You know that. Appreciate you, Kelly. So yes, it means audience. So here is the thing about this. It's becoming less and less relevant for you to use specific audiences. But if you have a pixel that is not yet that trained and you haven't had a lot of conversions yet, it still might be good, just like in your PBC test, to pick a particular audience and test them. Okay. So that means, let's say image 4, headline 3 was the winner in the image test. So let's say that, right? Your winner, this one just got really good. Let's say that H3 image 5 did pretty well, but not as well as image 4. I would still probably take both of those, and I would then set up 2 ad sets with each ad inside each ad set and let them go to town on audiences. So what do I mean? Going here. So this is your ad set, right? And let's say it's audience 1. Audience 1. And that's maybe a big stack. If you're in fitness, you might be going to, a stack of fitness stuff. Or you might, well, be specific with a particular interest. And then at the ad level, you're going to have the H3, image 4, and the H3, image 5, both inside of that ad set. Now, is it wrong to break those out into their own separate ad sets? Totally fine to do as well, if you like. There's not a lot of wrong right now, because what you're looking for is what audiences are converting with these ads. And so one of them is going to rise to the top with that audience. So let's say H3 image 4 ends up rising to the top with that audience. Okay. Second ad set is audience 2. And then so on and so forth, audience 3, audience 4, with as many specific audiences that are relevant to your offer and your common bond as you can find. Okay. Now, like I said, the entire audience testing is quite optional, because if you've been getting some traction and momentum and getting leads and getting sales or getting book calls, then your pixel has a little bit better of an idea of where to go. And so sometimes leaving it wide open where you have no targeting and letting the text really dictate where it's going to go is good. However, if you don't have enough data and your pixel isn't that trained, then that's going to cost more for you until your pixel starts to get a lot of conversions. So it's really a budget thing. If you have a tight budget, you may want to be specific with testing certain audiences. Okay. So here's what happens. Let's say you test 8 different audiences with these same 2 ads, and consistently they both work and give you an acceptable CPA, but only 5 out of those 8 audiences work. Okay. If that's the case, because let's say there's these like 5 audiences here. Let's say, let's not do 5 out of 8 because I've just got this here. So let's say that 3 out of the 5 gave me acceptable CPAs based on this same thing up here, right? Best result. How big should the audience be is very subjective, based on your market. So there's not a hard one. It's kind of the same as the CTR alls. Or the PBC test, where you just need to have it more than a few million usually. Unless you're in a local area, then just do what you can with your local area. Advantage Plus still works just fine too. You can use Advantage Plus for the PBC test. That works fine too. But what's going to happen is, even if you're using Advantage Plus, what you're using as a suggestion can work the same way with your audiences. But what I would do is, let's say I had tested 5 different audiences and I have 3 winning audiences. I'm going to stack those 3 winning audiences together into one big ad set with a bigger budget. Okay. Budget goes up. And that's where I'm scaling, is stacking audiences together. Now, can you accomplish this by using Advantage Plus? Yes, you can. So, like I said, audience targeting is optional. For some of you, it's not necessarily going to apply. And for some of you, it will. Okay. So that really is the time that we have today. I'm going to really finish out and clarify a lot of this and answer questions on this tomorrow, but I want you guys to sit in and maybe possibly watch the recording of this tonight so that you understand what you're going to do when you finish your challenge test. So I got just a minute or two and then I got to pop on another call here. So in the meantime, Nick, is there anything that just really needs to be answered right away that people have said in the comments? I haven't even looked at them.
No, you gotta bail, and I think the replay will go up, and then we'll have a chance to answer further questions either in the group or in tomorrow's call. So you're good.
Cool. Yeah, I've seen a couple of things pop up, like it shows it to you. I'm not looking at the chat, but sometimes I see it pop up right there on the screen when they say it. So I'm looking up and sometimes I see it. And if I see it, it's like I'm too responsive not to just be like, oh, it's this. So hopefully I haven't confused the heck out of you today. Usually it takes most people to watch this twice before this really sinks in. The best thing to do is to watch this and draw it out as I did. So it's going to get more solidified for you. But you're getting the idea, you're getting the philosophy, you understand what we're trying to accomplish. Overall, we want to test the copy, which allows us to find the best way to express the elements that we tested. Okay. And then once we find the best combination headline formula with those elements, we then go and test images. You can do it in one ad set. You can split them apart if you like, but I still oftentimes put them all inside of one ad set and let them compete with each other to see who wins. And then depending on my offer, the niche and what I'm doing, I may choose to do audience testing. And sometimes I just go straight Advantage Plus broad and I let that work too. It depends on the offer. It's really up to you and it's your choice. Either way is not wrong. Usually the Advantage Plus might not get you the best results in the first few days, but long-term, it typically will sustain longer as long as your budget is high enough. Okay. So the last thing here is this, your budget. In order for your ad set to optimize properly, you need 7 to 8 conversions per day. So if you're generating leads, that's pretty easy. But if you're getting $50 purchases, then that's a lot of money, right? Because it's like 50 times 7, which is like, $350 in an ad set. So that's the tough part. You're going to need to stair step up to that, right? So bid what you can, being comfortable with, okay? But know that your ad really isn't going to sustain until you get to about 6 to 7 to 8 conversions per day. Okay, so if you're booking calls, that's what a sustainable ad will be. So you just have to do the math on what your cost per result is. If you're getting $20 leads, then you need $120 a day for 6, $140 a day for 7 of them, right? And so you're going to have to accept that if you're starting out with those smaller budgets, they may burn out the first few times you're testing all of this, and you may have to reset them and start at a higher level after you've tested copy and image. Okay. So that's just a part of what you need to have work for you, making your numbers work. But I just want to let you know that typically a sustainable ad is going to get you about 7 to 8 conversions per day. Okay. And it's only at this point when you've started to do copy image audience testing that these trying to make that ad last is even a concern, because we know with the PBC test, we're going to turn off those ads. We don't care. They don't have to be tracked, because it's only just a couple days of sending it to people who are either purchase optimized or lead optimized, whatever event you're optimizing for. Just don't do link clicks with any of this stuff. Link clicks and landing page views are absolutely freaking worthless and don't work. So there it is. Is there a place for adding a button? Typically use button that opens to ManyChat. Great question. You can do the button at this point if you want. Yeah. Asia, to start a convo, if you want to do a button, totally fine to do. Totally fine to do in the CIA phase. I prefer not to unless I absolutely have to for technical reasons like starting convos, right? Totally understand. To start a messenger chat conversation, you can use a button at this phase. It's just during the PBC test, we want to be able to isolate things as much as possible, so we don't like to use the buttons. Once you get to CIA, I still prefer not to use the buttons. I don't even prefer not to use the buttons top of funnel for my full scale ads. But if you want to, this is now the time if it works for you. Okay. So with that, we got to get out of here. I got to hop on another webinar people are waiting for me on. And I hope that this helped you. And we're going to land this plane tomorrow. So if you are confused right now, it's okay. We're going to really solidify it tomorrow. Okay. And we will answer questions in the group. And we'll see you all tomorrow for the final day.
One-on-one links coming out today as well.
Yes, yes. We'll post. We will email you with it. All right, everyone. Take care. See you tomorrow.